Hello, can you hear me? Is there anybody out there? All right, so it looks like it is the 26th of Good Morning Mick. Good to see you here. Good morning, Val. Everyone must be shopping. Yeah, I know. Yesterday I went to the Black Friday deals or shopping with my friends just for the experience, not because I in any way wanted to get anything, and it was pretty insane. Yeah. Okay, let me introduction. It is the 26th of November here in Zone 5B, 6A, Northern Indiana, and we've had heavy frost. There's been some snow on the ground, some not snow on the ground. Northern Indiana here is not like further north where once it snows one time, it just stays it stays covered all winter. Here we'll have like snow, and then a couple of days we'll get up into like the 40s with sun, and so all the snow will melt, and then but it's still bitter cold, and we still have a bunch of snow, but it's not like like in Michigan, northern Michigan and stuff, where it just once it snows, that's it, you know. So there's that. A lot of things that we actually have done lately on the garden. I just went to my friend's house. He has an equestrian stables, and I cleaned out some of the horse manure from there. And so it's a really good thing to use. I love horse manure for the garden because it's time tested. It's been, since the dawn of agriculture virtually, along with the cow, ox manure and stuff like that, but it's really beneficial. And horse manure is not hot in the sense that I've planted straight into horse manure many times. It's best if it composts for a little while, but the only downside with the horse manure is that the horse does not fully digest the food in the same way that the cow does. And so the horse manure will still have potentially lots of weed seeds from the weeds of whatever it was eating. So you just have to prepare for that. And if you're going to, as long as you utilize a heavy layer of mulch, like the leaves or of the landscaping fabric, then it should be no problem. You can keep it down. But things love to grow in the horse manure, and now is a good time to add any of the manures. So add the chicken manure especially, because it is hot in the sense that there's a lot of salts in the fertilizer or in the manure. And so you want to let it mellow out all over the winter time so that come spring it will be nice and ready to plant into. So I've made a number of videos lately about a number of different techniques that you can utilize. And one is not necessarily the best over all the other ones. It's just a lot of it is based upon what you have access to. If you have access to a bunch of leaves and not much else, then it's going to be the burning method and the leaf piling method. If you have a bunch of green materials from your garden and stuff and some leaves, then you'll do the chop up method. Or if you have access to horse manure or any of the manures, you want to layer that in there as well. Now's the time for all of that. So, okay, guys. Laura says, hi from New Zealand. Ah, you're in New Zealand. Okay, wonderful. So you guys are really in the best time of the year, like early summer, right? Houseboat Grandma, hello from Louisiana on the bayou. Can I use chicken manure from the chicken house in garden? If composted long time with horse compost and mixed with soil. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. That is some of the best stuff possible is the manure. So that's the combination with the bedding and the feces and the urine is all in the bedding. Or even, I mean, technically manure, I think has some kind of bedding in with it. But yes, yeah, either way, yes, you can utilize it. Now you can utilize it in a couple of ways. One way is to throw it right onto the garden beds, which now, if you do it in the fall time, is ideal. And it's going to mellow out all during the winter time so that by spring you can plant. But if you find yourself with a bunch of chicken manure and you don't have time to let it mellow out and it's fresh, then you can make a liquid fertilizer with it. And then you can use it pretty much right away. So in the same style that we've made all the other fertilizers, for example, I mean, mostly, we will fill the bucket or the barrel 2/3 full and then fill it the rest of the way with clean water and some leaf mold. We'll put it in there as well, a couple shovel loads to the barrel, and then we will mix it all around. You can start utilizing it immediately, actually, but it will just get better and better with age, with time. So that's the way to use fresh chicken manure immediately on the garden. But the best way is to put it into the soil, because no amount of liquid fertilizers, and I remember this, guys, no amount of liquid fertilizers can compare or can substitute for the quality in the earth nutrients that the roots are pulling up. Okay, so a lot of people want to become a little bit too focused on making all the different fertilizers while sort of neglecting the actual soil, which what we put into the soil is the most important thing of all, what the plants have access to. So, and then the liquid fertilizers are additional, they're on top, or if you don't have the capability to have fertile soil, the first year or two. So let's see. Miss KC, yes, dog and cat manure is not all the time. I suspect that's probably not the best. Yeah, it's not really, just because of their diets, especially if it's a dog or cat that eats commercial cat food or dog food, which is just garbage. And I don't care who says, oh, I buy the $75 a bag really good stuff. It doesn't matter. It's devoid of the microorganisms that the animal requires for abounding health. So the animal can exist on just dog food or cat food, the dry stuff or the wet stuff, their whole life. Yeah, they can, but they will not thrive in the same way that they would if they had what they were naturally designed to eat, and that is raw meat. They are, and some occasional other things, but definitely the cat is raw meat only. Different kinds of raw meats, organs, liver, heart, chicken, beef, things like this, deer if you have, whatever, rabbit, whatever you have. That's the best by far for the animal. And if it's in that way, that kind of, feces if they're having that kind of a diet, then you can just let it go into the garden, or you can bury it and stuff. It's actually not really that bad. But if it's eating the diet of the kibbles, is what it's called, then it's going to be full of all kinds of chemicals and stuff. D-Bax says, first time finished up 5 gallons of JWA. Followed instructions to a T. It came out great. Just have to bottle it up today in Northwest Florida. All right, people making JWA. Now, question, does the vinegar kill anything in the Tabasco, or is it still live? Well, I haven't tested it, but it's, we don't add a lot of vinegar. Well, I guess we kind of do. Yeah, I mean, no doubt it will inhibit the growth of some of them, yes. So, yeah, that's, it's still live though. It's still absolutely going to be live. You can taste it and you can smell it. And when you crack it and stuff, it will still be actively fermenting for months, really. So yeah, it's still alive, definitely. So let's see. No way says, greetings, Viking Nate. Yes, we need to get you YouTube notifications fixed. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. I think it just tells, because I don't like plan them way in advance, the lives. I just do it at 11:55 every Saturday, and then 5 minutes later press. So it probably only sends you out the notifications 5 minutes before we do it. And so let's see. Becky Knight says, what's causing my Tahitian melon squash plant leaves to turn yellow? South Florida. Well, that could be a number of factors. I would have to see the growing conditions. What is their root zone like? How big is their root zone? Are they in the earth? How much water are they getting? How much fertilizer, if any, have you been using? What is the base fertilizer? What did you actually put into the earth? What kind of liquid fertilizers are you using? All of these things have to come into play. And what kind of sun exposure are they getting? So, yeah. Lonnie Betty says, will potatoes grow covered in hay? Yes, they will. They absolutely will. Now, hay is different than straw. Hay, you will want to do like a Ruth Stout type method for potatoes. But yeah, they'll grow right up through it. Unless if you're talking about like bales of hay, they have to be conditioned first properly. Okay. So yes, you definitely can. I would prefer to, if you're doing potatoes that way, then have the earth and then put the potato and then pile like 6 to 8 inches of horse manure or cow manure, composted cow manure on top. And then you can put a few inches of straw on top of that. That's actually the ideal way because hay is going to introduce a lot of weed seeds into the garden, which won't be that big of an issue if you have things in line to deal with them. So if you plan to keep a real thick layer of the hay in the Ruth Stout method, which I've done Ruth Stout a number of times, so I'll make videos on this in the future, but Ruth Stout is essentially the only thing that you use is hay and real deep layers of it. Some people say straw, but actually it's hay is what she advocates using because it's far more nutritious than straw. So you just essentially let the hay compost down over the years and you never dig into anything and you never remove the hay, you never till, you never do anything except add more hay. And then as everything decomposes, it really does create a fantastically rich, vibrant layer of organic matter that is ideal for growing virtually anything. And it retains the moisture, and it just is a really great method. If you have huge amounts of hay available, for most people, it takes huge amounts of hay. You pretty much either need to be good friends with the hay guy, or you need to grow it yourself and have like a sigh where you're gonna take it down, or have Amish friends or something like that. But you will need like a lot of it, like multiple round bales of hay in order to keep it that thick where it's going to inhibit the growth of the weed seeds that are in it. So that's the thing. If you see weeds or if you see anything, you just add more, and it can be thick. I mean, thick. I think Trish said approximately 3 feet tall. I think you might be talking about this because the Ruth Stout method, you can put multiple feet of the hay. So let's see here. Becky says, yes, in earth, using what you recommend, full sun. Okay, so you're talking about the yellowing of your squash plants. Now, that could be too much water. It could be very likely, especially if you're in like South Florida, I think you said. Or it could be a lack of nitrogen. We'd see. I mean, have you given it the fish fertilizers? That's a really good high nitro one. And the JMS, of course, you want to add that a number of times. That will help to keep fungal diseases away by keeping everything in balance and in check. Because the key to keeping disease at bay is diversity and balance of microorganisms. So in nature, the reason that everything doesn't become consumed with disease is because it's all kept in check by a system of very, very complex checks and balances. So our modern practices sort of throw off all of those systems of balances, and so we have a lot of disease issues. And just the nature of growing vegetables, the plants that we use for vegetables in itself is already sort of allowing disease and pests to proliferate, just because we're taking these plants, all the ones that have been cultivated for vegetables, these are not in their natural environment. They are not, and they actually don't exist in nature. Like the cabbages and pretty much any of the plants that we grow for food don't actually exist in the wild, and they never have. Because we cultivate them. And so by man, the mind of man has, selected it for the traits that we want, that we need. The bigger, harder heads of cabbage are the ones that we want to save the seeds from, and so like through time, they've all sort of morphed. And so you would not find pretty much any of these plants in the wild. And so therefore, they're not very competitive. And so they don't have that robustness that a native plant will have. Like the weeds in the garden, they'll grow no matter what. That's because they are specifically regionally adapted to where you are and your conditions. Our vegetable plants, unfortunately, are not like that. And so that's why they need so much more tender, caring than the weeds or the trees or the shrubs in the same area. But to finish that, okay, so she says, we did have a lot of rain, so it's time for more nutrients. Yes, and so too much water can definitely do it. So if it is if it doesn't drain properly, or if it is staying soggy for too long, squash don't like to have wet. They like moisture, ample amounts of moisture, but they don't like to have wet feet. And that will definitely do it, because as the root zone sort of starts to die off, you will see the leaves start to yellow as well. But if it's the leaves towards the base, if it's the oldest leaves of the plant and they're turning a uniform sort of yellow, then that can also indicate a lack of nitrogen in the soil. And if you're in South Florida, then you may have very sandy soil, which will not hold on to nutrients as well as other soils do. So growing in sandy soil can be more difficult than growing in clay soil. I know it doesn't seem like that, but the sandy soil just, if it's too sandy, won't hold on to the nutrients. And so you may need to hit it with some more nitro if the yellowing leaves are the oldest ones, meaning some of the first ones to sprout towards where the roots are. Because the plant, as it senses that it's running out of nitrogen, it will sacrifice the oldest leaves on the plant first to draw the nitrogen out of them and give it to the growing tip, because it wants to keep growing. So it will pull the nitrogen out of the oldest leaves on the plant and give it to the newest leaves. And that's why you see the oldest leaves yellowing first. And that's, if it's an even yellow and it's not like blotches of yellow and stuff, then that's a general indication of nitrogen deficiency, yes. So we could go so much deeper into it if I was there and I could see the conditions and ask you a bunch of questions and stuff. It's what's cool is that once you learn the language of the plants, you can pretty much just diagnose anything anywhere by no matter where the plant is or what kind of plant it is. So Garth says, be sure your hay is organic as to avoid aminopyralids. Yes, my friend. I use hay at 8 inches thick and never have weed seed issues. One round bale lasts me many years. How big of a garden do you have, Garth? Put the seed 2 inches under the soil. 3 feet hay will rot stems. Yes, 3 feet hay will rot stems. But initially, when you first lay it down, I've laid it 3 feet, and that compacts down to 5 inches at most. So yeah, you don't keep all the hay 3 feet, but it's just when you're starting the garden and when you are shaking it out of the round bales and stuff. That's what I've had the best success with, because it compacts down so tiny. But yes, you want to make sure, man, that it is not sprayed with the broadleafs. And that kind of stuff can be really, detrimental with any of the herbicides. So let's see. Successful garden design. Good question. What question? Have I missed it? Okay. Successful garden design. When the mushroom kits have had their third flush, can you put them into substrate to colonize in the buckets, or are they finished after 3 fruitings? Now, you absolutely can use that to inoculate. It's not going to be very strong. It's not going to be as strong as the grain spawn. It's not the same thing. Or as the sawdust spawn. As the bags of spawn that we got, it's not going to be that strong. So it's going to need a little more help. So you pretty much will only want to, in one of the spray and grow kits, you will want to only inoculate one of the small buckets with that. So, but yes, you definitely can. But you want to make sure, you want to look and see if it's got any mold growing on it, like gray or like the penicillin type mold, that kind of mold, the green mold. So that is what you want to make sure that you peel off, or that it's not, you don't want to inoculate it with a bunch of the green mold. So if there's not a lot of that and you can peel off whatever there is, then you can just cover, or you can just inoculate one of these small buckets with the spray and grow kit. Yes. And then in the springtime, we will take the buckets and inoculate some outdoor beds, which will be really cool. Okay. Let's see. Good evening from the UK. Hello, Christine. Garth says, I grow 75 hills of spuds. Nice. How many pounds of potatoes do you get then per year from that? D-Backs, first time able to make live discussion. Always love to hear your wisdom. Always love growing things ever since I can remember. Have learned a lot of good information from you. That's very good, my friend. Thank you for saying that, and I'm glad that you are here, and I'm glad that you're learning. And that's what it's all about, definitely. And there's a resurgence in this kind of knowledge as well. With the free flow of information on the internet and with the state of things, we'll just keep it really simple. With the state of things and the possibilities or lack of possibilities looming on the horizon in the future, maybe, then it's really got people motivated again, thinking, hey, where does my food come from? What would I do if the food was just suddenly not there at the store? Well, I better start at least learning how to grow it, like all of our ancestors used to do. I better at least learn how to begin offsetting my food supply, just like the victory garden. We have to bring back the victory garden, right? Where it doesn't matter if you're not growing 100% of your food. It doesn't matter what percentage of your food you're growing. What matters is that you are growing the food and that you are utilizing every available inch to be productive in the food supply, and that you are offsetting your dependency on the store. Even though, yeah, it's easy to go to the store. Oh, well, I'll just buy it from the store. That's one way of thought, yes. But that's also another way of thought is to say, I can grow it myself. I can utilize the gift of nature, because the earth, the mother, is saying, here, I will give you everything that you need. You just have to treat me right. So just don't destroy me and harm me, and I will give you everything you possibly need. And so we can just utilize this gift and say, okay, thank you. And so we will grow whatever we can, wherever we can, and that's the right mindset. It's not, because so many people get overwhelmed with, I'll just never be able to grow everything. Well, at least grow something, because that's not the right mindset to look. Just throw your hands up and say, well, it's too much. We need too much land to do this and that. Microgreens, sprouts, it doesn't get any easier than that, Garth, I grow 75 pounds, but that's not enough. My soil has high organic content, but not enough nutrition. Will apply your fertilizers next season. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Then you will have wonderful success then this year. Multiple applications of the microbial solution prior to planting. Full strength. Listen, guys, this is the key. Early spring, or as soon as you can make it, do like a 55-gallon drum of the JDOM microbial solution, full strength. Not diluted, and do like 5 times of that before planting, before any plants are in the ground. And that is going to condition the soil to an incredible degree. And you will have thriving microorganisms so that they will be able to unlock the nutrients that are in the soil. And that's really the key. But then after you put plants in the ground, you cannot use it any stronger than, I suggest 1 to 20 for the microbial solution. 1 to 20 of water. So then you can add, after the plants are in the ground, then once a week or once every other week, or even once every 3 weeks, just an application of the microbial solution 1 to 20, or even 1 to 50 is fine. So, but those 5 applications of the full strength JDOM prior to planting are crucial. And then you'll add things like the grass JLF, for potatoes, this year I found they really like wood ash. They really like the wood ash. So, and then the fish fertilizer, of course. Reed, good morning from the Sonora Desert. You made the switch. You went south for the winter. Nice. Are you able to grow any of the microgreens or the mushrooms or anything like that? Let's see. That's excellent advice. I used to think my yard was small, but now I can see the possibilities with what I can do with the land I have. Absolutely correct. Yes, and this is the appropriate mindset. And if more people adopt that, the better. But it doesn't matter if more people adopt it, because we are adopting it. So that's good enough for now. So we just grow anything that we can in any available square inch of land. And we don't concern ourselves with the percentage of what we're growing. Unless you want to get real crazy about it like me, of course. Then, well, that's a whole different ballgame then. Let's see. Ingrid, we grew a giant banana squash, which produced a plant with 15 fruits the size of 2 loaves of fresh bread. The plant took over a mound of grass 3 feet high. The plant was about 12 feet in diameter. Nice. That's really the way to do it. Like the Tahitian melon squash or the banana squash or even the butternuts or the Jardel squash. My favorite of all is the Tahitian melon squash, though. the best way to do it, they like to grow with huge amount of space. So if you can mound up manure and leaves or grass clippings or hay piles, mounds of hay, like 5 feet around and a few feet tall, they really like that. But it has to be, decomposed. It has to be well decomposed and stuff. And you just plant 3 of them in that hill. And then once they start to grow, and once you can tell distinctly which one is the most vigorous of the 3, go ahead and terminate the other 2. I know it's difficult to do. Thinning and terminating plants that are perfectly fine. But that one remaining plant of the Tahitian melon squash will grow to Jurassic proportions. You will grow, the stalk will be so much thicker. The drought tolerance will be so much greater because it doesn't have to compete for the water or the nutrients with any of the other plants in the area. So that's really the good way to do it. And then you'll get the big, huge, succulent squash full of all the minerals that you need and all of that. Let's see. Nick the gardener says, "Hi Nate, would burning the leaves like your previous video raise the pH at all? Thanks, Nick." No, it won't. That's the short answer. Now, it seems like, oh, that would raise the pH or lower the pH, but the soil is so much more complicated than that, complex than that, that it would literally take dump truck loads of ash to even change the pH in any meaningful way whatsoever. So you will have virtually zero detectable difference. And even if there was, contrary to popular understanding, it is the rhizosphere of the plant that actually controls the pH that plant needs. So that's why soil testing is pretty much worthless in most situations, because we're testing the soil, and what the pH is in the soil is not necessarily what the pH is at the root zone in the rhizosphere, because the plant knows what kind of pH it needs. And so it will use the power of the sun. It will capture carbon out of the air, combine the elements, and pump the exact types of sugars in the ground that is going to attract the exact type of microorganisms that it knows will condition the soil to the pH that it wants. Isn't that mind-blowingly magnificent? And all of us are stressed out about pH and stuff like that. It's nothing against, you, Nick, or anything like that. But I'm just saying that pH, the gardeners think they have to adjust the pH, and this is not true. You don't have to. You just have to make sure that the microorganisms are vast and diverse and thriving. They will take care of all of that. It's wonderful because nature never has to adjust the pH. Let's see here. Miss KC, "I have bamboo creeping into my yard. Is it of use? I was thinking of cutting it down and using it for structuring some of my beds." Man, I love bamboo. It's the ultimate building material. If you're like me and you just like to build stuff, especially out of like whatever you have available, or what other people would call like a junkyard. When I lived in California, man, we had a massive junkyard on the property with like decades worth of old cars and there was a fire engine and all kinds of stuff. And man, anytime I needed to do something, I would go in there with either the cutting torch or the angle grinder, and I would get whatever I needed, or the sledgehammer, and I could get all kinds of supplies, build whatever I needed out of that, trash or whatever. And I love that kind of thing because it exercises the mind, and it feels so good when you can make something out of whatever is available. So long answer, yes, the bamboo is very, very useful. So absolutely, just let it come into your yard. No way, $10. Thank you, my friend. Says, "Thinning is one of the hardest lessons, I think." Oh man, you ain't kidding. And it is one of the hardest things to do, and you're right, it is a lesson you have to learn, because it seems like, no, I'm not going to cut those. They're perfectly good plants, and I can't bring myself to do it. Trust me, I know how that feels. But with enough experience, you will understand that you actually stifle your long-term benefits because there's too much competition. They're too crowded. And so if you thin them out, the ones that are left will grow stronger and healthier and more nutrient dense and all the positive things because there's not the competition. And they like it like that. They don't like to be crowded out, really. Very few plants actually do. Green onions are a major exception. Yeah, the tea today is called, it's a Greek mountain tea. This is what's left of it. But it's actually just, and I got turned on to this when I was in Greece. We had this stuff all the time. And it's just a number, it's actually like a Greek mountain herb. It's not really a combination of different herbs. It's like mountain herb, I think. I forget exactly, but we drank it all the time there. The old schoolers drank it all the time. And it's really good for all sorts of things, cognition and wherewithal. It's full of life force. It's full of just positive stuff. You can just feel it. And antioxidants and all the good stuff is all there. So Greek mountain tea. So they will, you could probably get it at the Greek grocery store or something like that. They might, because it's very popular. So yes. It's, yeah, maybe like types of wild sage, maybe something like this. Oh, yeah, with that last name. Where are you from, my friend? Yes. So, can someone tell how to donate? Becky Snyder, can someone tell her how to donate? Because I don't really know. You think you hit the button that says thanks with the money sign? That would be wonderful. Or there's always a link in the description to the videos to my PayPal account if you would like to contribute that way. And I greatly appreciate it because, of course, all of this takes time. And so it's wonderful to be compensated for my time. And it feels good because it's like it's a symbolic representation of your time. So it's an exchange of energy. So that's why I appreciate it, of course. And it helps me to experiment with all kinds of new stuff. That's really important. Like in new kinds of ways of doing things, you know, which is really cool. I've been doing that a lot this year, and that's been really nice. And it will lead to more videos in the future. That's really what it's all about for me. So let's see. Chill. What's the tea again? Okay. Jason. Oh, you're from Corfu. Okay, yes. Yeah. So he says it's a type of wild sage. So he knows this Greek mountain tea that I'm talking about. And it's, but I can't find individually any equivalent. Like I don't think it's a combination of plants. I think it is like one plant. But it's just been great. And I lived with this guy in Greece called Yorgo Meli, which I think translates to like Honey George. And he got me turned on to raw honey. Man, I'm eating raw honey all the time. Every day I'm having raw honey with all different kinds of stuff. Yes, Cheesecake, Greek mountain tea. Cheesecake is the person's name. Yes, it's called Greek mountain tea. But yeah, the raw honey has been incredible. I use it in all kinds of, all my tea always has raw honey in it. And contrary to popular understanding, putting it in your tea is not killing off all the living enzymes and the good beneficial things that are in the raw honey, because the pasteurization process takes a higher temperature for a sustained amount of time. So putting it in the hot water like this actually doesn't destroy any of the benefits. And I've thoroughly looked into this over the years. And so go ahead, use copious amounts of raw honey in your tea, okay? And don't worry that it crystallizes like this. This is perfectly natural. That's just what it does. This is what good raw honey does. It crystallizes like that. You can even eat it by the spoonful. It's super good for you. Don't worry about it. So I have been curious about growing the tea, by the way. How is the flavor? Which tea are you talking about? You're talking about this Greek mountain tea then? You must be in like an arid sort of rocky environment with Mediterranean sort of climate. It actually tastes wonderful. To me, it has such fond memories because I lived 2 seasons in Greece teaching scuba diving. And it was in the village of Palaros, which is by Lefkada on the Ionian Sea. And it was just awesome memories. You know, things that when you're in the moment, you don't even understand how valuable the experience is in your life as far as who you are and what you become. But it's only in hindsight that you see, man, the people, the time, even the struggles, all the struggles were awesome looking back. You know, at the time they were a struggle, but looking back, they were just stepping stones to where I am now, which I absolutely love. Every element of the now. So successful garden design, 10 pounds sterling. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'm learning so much so quickly, and I know how much goes into video making? Yes, you do, because she has a YouTube channel as well about garden design. So she understands that a lot goes into it. Not just time, but it's your expression. It's like you put your heart and soul into something, and then you let people see it, which is crazy, and it's been a learned skill. And also talking in front of the camera. If you guys haven't made videos before, just try it sometime. Just try and make one video and put it on your YouTube channel. That's what I would like, so that I could click on it and see who a lot of you guys are. So why don't you go ahead and do that? Put a video on your YouTube channel about something that interests you, and then mention me in it. And then I will look it and I'll be able to see. So how about you do a little bit of your garden or something like that, or one of your fertilizers or something, but make sure I can see your face or something, and then mention me. That would be great. And then you will also be able to see, whoa, you'll be trying to make, because when I first started making videos, I was like, okay, now I was like a deer in the headlights. It's a skill to just let it flow, to just let the consciousness flow, and to have things that are just flowing right through your mind, and you're just speaking them out, as opposed to have to think about everything that you're saying and then be all self-conscious about it. It takes time. Yes, it's all about the energy. Let's see here. I'm having a go at trying some, Christine Ruddy says, I'm having a go at trying some of the fertilizers over the coming months. I'm starting tomorrow with water-soluble calcium. That's a really good way to start, with the water-soluble calcium. And water-soluble calcium, it's available now, within 10 days. It doesn't have to ferment for months. And you can use it on the house plants, which is very great. The labs and the water-soluble calcium are two of the best things that you can use on your house plants. Because they don't smell, and they actually counteract any kind of smell or rot that might be going on. The labs is very good to use for your houseplants. If you guys have houseplants that you have been feeding, well, no matter what you've been feeding them, add a strong dose of the labs. You can go on houseplants, you can go as much as 2 ounces a gallon of water, and it won't harm them whatsoever. In fact, you will notice once you give the labs to your houseplants at 2 ounces a gallon, it will unlock the nutrients that are already there that have become sort of not available. And you will see the plants will just completely perk up. And you can tell the difference between a plant that's barely alive and just kind of nursed along, and a plant that is thriving, nice and strong and full of life. You can just tell. So after you do the labs to your houseplants, you will see it. Let's see. Ingrid's Kitchen Garden. Famously first words when filming. Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's like, what do I say? You're trying to think about it and all that stuff. And the thought process is way too slow. But the consciousness process is instantaneous. It just is poof, it just flows right out. So you just learn to speak as it's coming in. But you also need some kind of a filter, because you can't just say whatever comes to your mind. Well, you could, but Let's see. Christine says, I'll make labs the next one I try. Yes. And when you make the labs, you get a double bonus, which is the cheese, the farmer cheese. So after you make the labs, strain it out. Well, watch the video, of course, and then just strain it out and add a little bit of the sea salt. And that's pretty much enough. But if you wanted to add a little bit of dill, or eat it with one of the fermented tomatoes, oh my goodness. How many of you have done that? You've had some of the labs cheese with a fermented tomato, and it just boom, it's just exploding with flavor and tanginess and all the good stuff. The body is yes, we want this, because it's bursting with microorganisms. So yeah. Let's see, that guy Chris. Nate, your thoughts on homemade bone meal by boiling bones? Just as good as store-bought? Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. You can guarantee pretty much anything that you make yourself is going to be better than store-bought anything. Because the people from the store, the gardening supplies is the last stop. So it's all the stuff that they're just about to throw in the trash because there's zero other use for it whatsoever. They've already extracted all the collagen. They've already extracted all of the minerals from the bones and put it into vitamins and cosmetic products and all kinds of other stuff. And just whatever's left is one step away from being trash. That's what they'll make into the bone meal. But for you, if you're making it, then you can afford to utilize bone meal with some of the marrow in it and good quality bones, a diversity of bones as well. Some poultry bones, or if you have chicken, or some, the really good is the beef bones, but they can get a little bit hard to break up. But you want to char them really well, but leave some of the marrow in there. It's just really good. And then grind, powderize it, pulver it. I'll make a video on how I make it in the springtime. Okay. But yes, it's much better than homemade or than store-bought. So Ingrid says, try it with some truffle salt. Ooh, yeah, truffle salt. How do you make that? Is that, I'm not familiar actually with what truffle salt is. I know what truffles are, but Pam says, sorry I am late. We are having rolling blackouts in South Africa. So many hours on, so many hours off. I really miss watching your awesome videos. I have learned so much from you. Great stuff you share. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for the positive energy and the enthusiasm. It's really wonderful. It's inspiring to me, because like I've said before, if we were all like in a room, actually in a room, and I could see your faces, there would be like that feedback loop. I would say something and I would see a certain number of heads nodding like, yeah, yeah. Or I would see people's looks on their face like, what? Or I would see some of their looks just totally disinterested, daydreaming. And all of that creates like a feedback loop. So that would allow me to adjust what we're saying, what we're talking about, the knowledge that's coming out and all that stuff. So that's why it's like really good in person. But here, there's not that feedback loop. So it's just kind of like, there is a form of it now though, and I'm learning to read it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's part of the art form, part of the skill, that is, so that's really nice when I hear things like that, because it's like, okay, people really are into it. And they are. At this point, people are really into it. Just the whole movement of growing your food again in ways that nourish the land instead of deplete it. The old way of just rototilling and dumping chemical fertilizers and then using pesticides, that's going by the wayside. And it has to, because the absolute primary goal or the primary concern is soil health. Because I know that it doesn't seem like this to everyone because we've become so disconnected from what sustains us, but soil health is absolutely correlates with human health in every way. So both in the nutrient density of the food and the sustainability of the land to produce things, and therefore the sustainability of us to maintain life and nourishment. So it is really like the most important thing, or one of the very top ones. So yes, this is, it's very good that there's a resurgence in this, an awareness of this, because our ancestors sustainably, they were the original sustainable farmers. Okay, so they kept the soil thriving and healthy for thousands of years. And they were doing things that left their children and their grandchildren a land that was more fertile than the one that they were born into by doing these things, utilizing natural processes and with their understanding of things. For the most part, there's exceptions to all of this, of course, throughout history. But when they broke this cycle, that's when the civilization would perish. Or they, that's the rise and fall of civilizations is intimately tied to the food supply. And and think of that. Our ancestors did that for thousands of years, okay? And yet we have managed to destroy the soil to an unbelievable degree in just a few generations. Just a couple, just 50 to 100 years maximum. And there's absolutely no way that we could sustain exactly what we're doing for any length of time. So we have to go back to the old school way. Asking for Ikhlas Ahmed from Pakistan. Please tell me, can we ferment grains to be used as poultry feed? Will it save feed costs to raise the chicken? If yes, please guide how we should ferment grains. Now, does anyone else have experience with that? Fermenting your grains to raise the chicken. Now, you can sprout them, definitely, which is a really good way of dramatically increasing the bulk and the nutrient content of the grains. So if you can just soak them and then rinse them out, and for about 2 or 3 days, just until they sprout enough to get the tail and a little bit of the root coming out, then yes, that dramatically increases the nutrient content of the seeds. So that's definitely what I would feed, and that's what we did feed. That's why I first learned about sprouting all this stuff was in, like I always say, Northern California. And we would feed to the chickens, of course. And then the hog. The hog would eat anything, though. Anything. So yes, Taida says, we do both sprouts and ferments for ours. She says, you can definitely ferment seed for chickens. So there we go. We got someone in the community that's actively doing it right now. And she says, yes, absolutely you can. So Taida, how do you ferment them? What is the best way that you ferment them? Link, what's up, my man? It says, I learn everything in hindsight. Oh, yeah. Yes. That's a good skill, though. I mean, it's kind of late, though, because the thing's already passed, but still we learn from it, you know, and you reflect on it, and that's the best way to learn. Okay, Iklas says, hi, Nate, can we ask more than one question? Of course, my friend. How can we scale up JMS and JLF preparation for very large land area, like 100 or 200 hectares? For that, you easily can, well, I wouldn't say easily, but you can totally scale it up. Yes, 200 hectares, that's a lot. So you will have to have the irrigation equipment, of course. Obviously, you probably already got that set up and stuff, or the spraying equipment. Now, because I've never done it on that large of a scale, I strongly suggest you purchase the JDOM book because they are doing it on that scale. And so he gives already the measurements for large scale stuff. He gives measurements per hectare of application. So that's really where the JDOM book shines, is when you're trying to scale up, then all of that is already like calculated out for you. So that's what I recommend. I would direct you to the JDOM book if you're trying to scale it up to that scale. My experience is mostly with a smaller scale, even though, you know, I was doing on a somewhat big scale in Northern California, but even that was not 200, you know, it was not acreage like that by any means. So, yeah, I know for sure it's possible, but definitely get the JDOM book. Let's see, Taida says, so easy, just seed and water and time. I use 2 gallons glass container and scoop some out each day. Replace what I took. It's a continuous system. Wonderful. So that sounds like the way to utilize the fermented grains to feed your chickens. Ingrid's Kitchen. Edible Acres has a good channel on raising birds on sprouted and soaked grains. Guys, that's right. Ingrid's Kitchen Garden says that. Edible Acres, great channel. I really enjoyed them. And yes, I've watched a number of their videos over the years, and real good, positive people, positive energy. They are definitely about spreading the mission, and yes, the message. So check them out, guys. Edible Acres. So they have a good raising birds and sprouted soaked grains. No Way says, be sure they have grit to help them digest the feed. Okay, make sure that they have grit to help them digest the feed. In South Africa, I used to make liquid fertilizer from kelp seaweed, but here in Greece, we only have dead seagrass washing up after a storm. Perhaps you're familiar with it from diving. Any good? Yeah, I'm very familiar with that dead seagrass in Greece. Oh my goodness. There was, because I came from the Gulf of Thailand, and I was teaching scuba diving there on the island of Koh Tao. And it was like a bath water. The water is so warm, and you just peek under there and bursting with life. Thousands of different kinds of fish of all different colors all over the place. Everywhere, every inch that you look, there is life bursting out of the ocean there. And so I did 1,500 dives over the course of a length of time right there in Koh Tao. And so then I went to Greece, the Ionian Sea, and I started teaching there. And my first dive in there, it almost knocked the wind out of me. It was like ice cold. And I was like, and then I tried to go under the water, and I was looking under there, and everything is just gray. And there was not one fish. And I'm just looking around, and it's just like this grass that's on the ground. And I'm thinking, what have I done? But I stuck it out though. I ended up doing 2 seasons there, and I just come to find that it's well, obviously a colder water, at least in the early summer, and it is has been overfished for thousands of years, and not necessarily responsibly or sustainably, and so there's like no fish left, which is the obvious result. So that's a long way to answer your question, but yeah, it's still usable. It's definitely still useful, and the minerals that are in it are going to be good because it's got the seawater in it. And so seawater has got 82 different minerals in it, all of which are necessary to plant growth. And so it's got them in good proportions. It's a great thing to use. Not too heavily though. So you want to definitely dilute. If you're going to make a JLF from the seagrass, definitely dilute it, 100, 200, 300 to 1. Okay. Look, I got these Tears of Chios from an island in Greece. Yes. It's a really good like mastic gum. I chew on it a lot. It's so incredibly tough to chew on. It really gives you a good jaw exercise. You can feel all your facial muscles working when you chew this stuff. It's like a tree resin, and it is fantastic. Yeah. Let's see here. Can you add a shot of lab to JLF 5-gallon buckets? Would it be beneficial or counterproductive? If it has benefits, then how much lab to add to buckets and how often? There is no need to add the labs to the JLF. If you want to add the two together, do it at the point of use. Do it right as you're about mixing up your barrel and then going to fertilize it, because the labs is great at fermenting and breaking down things, but they're only a small group of microorganisms, whereas the leaf mold in the JDOM liquid fertilizers is a huge diversity of microorganisms, and that's what we want. So we do not want to add labs to any of the ferments unless they specifically call for labs, such as the fish hydrolysate. That we are utilizing the labs to break down the fish proteins in a fast manner. And that is making a fish hydrolysate that is not the same as the fish fertilizer. It's a fish hydrolysate, which is a different form. So it gets intricate, but short answer, no. We don't utilize the labs in any of the ferments unless it specifically calls for labs. But if we want to use it, which is great to do it at the point of use. Yes. And the root zone loves to be watered with the labs. The labs it unlocks so many of the nutrients that are there in the soil. Okay, is the seaweed fresh and wet? Yes, absolutely. You take the seaweed fresh and wet right from the shore, or if you want to dive down and get some of the kelp, which is also great, or whatever it is, put it into the barrel and fill it with fresh water. Yes, right away. Or it can be dried as well, but you'll get you'll get much more of the benefits because it is bursting with microorganisms. When it comes out of the sea, man, everything sort of comes from the sea. And so it has really got everything that we need. Okay. Josh says, is skim milk okay to make labs? If that's all you have available, you can try, but not really, because the fats have been taken off of you won't have good success because you need the fats. So that is going to not really work that well. Okay. Skim milk. So you want whole milk, preferably raw milk, but whole milk is by far the best. You need the fats in there because that's what is going to make it happen. That guy Chris says, you don't need to leach salt out of fresh seaweed. No, absolutely not. But that's why we keep it all separate. We don't just add the seaweed to all the other fertilizers. We have a fertilizer that is just the seaweed or the sea plant material. And then we make sure that one is diluted much more than the other ones. Like I said, 200, 300, 500 to 1. If you want to just start out with like 500 to 1, it's still going to be really beneficial. We just want to make sure we don't get too much salt content in there. But yes, you want to make a separate one. That's why everybody wants to make can I just mix everything into every barrel? You can, but it gives you so much more control if you can make them separately. So yes, you ferment the seaweed or the sea plant material, whatever it is, in the bucket by itself and dilute it exceptionally a lot. And no, you do not need to leach it out, because the sea salt that is in there is what is it's a mineral supplement. It's one of the best mineral supplements, because ultimately everything returns to the sea, all the minerals and everything. I should try making labs. Sounds like it would be beneficial for a lot of uses. Is that the mixture that gives you the cheese? That is correct, Val. It is the mixture that gives you the cheese. And any of you guys that have done it, go ahead. You can tell Val how amazing that it is. It really tastes fantastic. It can be an acquired taste, it could be, but man, there's just something about it. If you like fermented stuff, or if you like that kind of, if your palate is accustomed to that kind of thing, it's really wonderful. And it's bursting with microorganisms. I should put that on a shirt, shouldn't I? Bursting with microorganisms. Bursting with life, because it is. It's not like most cheese is got microorganisms in it, but it's very different. This farmer's cheese, what we call it, the lab's cheese, is like almost moving. You can almost see it moving. Not literally, but yes. So, and don't worry about microorganisms, the probiotics and stuff. A lot of people's like, well, your stomach acid just destroys it anyways. Now, that's actually not true at all. So you need to do more research into that if that's what you think. It seems like that would. It all just gets broken down in the stomach, but that's not actually the case. The microorganisms are very robust, and in the pH environment of the stomach acid, they go to sleep. They go dormant. They go into their protective shell, and then they reawaken on the other side of the stomach acid in the digestive tract. And that is what we need. So don't think that, that all just gets killed by the stomach acid. No, it doesn't. So that's not how it works. Let's see. Would that be good in mac and cheese? No, not really. I don't think it would be good, Jason, in mac and cheese, the Lab's cheese. It's more like one of those European type ones that are really fragrant. It's more like that kind of thing. So you wouldn't want to be making it into the mac and cheese, and you wouldn't want to heat it, actually, for all of the benefits. Maggie says, question, we have hydrogen sulfide in our water. Should I try to counteract that for the plants? Hydrogen sulfide in the water. I would have to do more research into that to know for sure. What exactly is hydrogen sulfide, and where does it come from? And what is the, because it sounds rather benign. It doesn't sound like it should be really that big of a deal. But if someone could put it in the actual comments of the video, Nate, look up hydrogen sulfide, then I will know for next video. Thank you. Let's see. Busy Girl says, Nate, to make fish fertilizer, can I use frozen fish to make it with? Yes. If that's what you have access to, yes. Fresh fish is best, but frozen fish will absolutely work. Yes. Because it's all about digesting the proteins. So just make sure that you use good quality living leaf mold. Because you watch the video that I've made, of course, you get the good quality leaf mold. So yes, thumbs up number 40. Yes, Bubba, thank you. Guys, try to give the video a thumbs up. Try to give all the videos that you watch just a thumbs up. And even if you're not super interested in the topic of the video and you just want to help the channel, the simplest way you can help the channel is just to watch the video, to just let it play. You don't even have to watch it if it doesn't interest you, but just let it play to the end. Give a thumbs up, leave a comment, maybe share the video to someone that might be interested in it. All of those help grow the channel and therefore help spread the message. And that's really what it's all about. It's not just about growing a channel, it's about spreading the knowledge and the message. So I wish I had local access to raw fish and seaweed. Yeah, oh yeah, that's really the best. Taida says, feed the algorithm. Yes, the algorithm wants to see engagement. Definitely wants to see engagement. Let's see, greetings from Arizona. Hello, old to ply. Let's see, jalapeno. So if you guys have burning questions or things that I missed, where is it? Okay, so it's as simple as letting raw milk sit room temp until it turns to cheese on its own, question mark. I have a local source. Matt Barker says this. Now it can be. It's still, I have actually found, even with the raw milk, it's still good to use the rice wash water, because the raw milk without the rice wash water, well, it just depends. So yes, but technically yes. And in other countries, This is how they make it. This is how they originally made it, is with the just letting raw milk sit at room temperature for a number of days until it separates. Now, I have yet to get a clear, distinct separation from the raw milk, and the consistency of the cheese has been much more spreadable. So it hasn't been as hard. When I do it with the rice wash water and the milk, the organic milk, but it's been pasteurized from the store, it produces a hard layer, a good solid, more like a actual cheese, you know. So that is my experience on that. But let me know if you got access to raw milk. Absolutely, you can just let it sit and it will separate. So let me know your experiences on that. Let's see, Nate, can one get leaf mold from dead cactus in any way? I don't have enough experience with that. I would have to see what the environment around the cactus is like. So if it was, I would just have to see. If you can see the microorganisms, if you can see decomposition happening, if you can see the life, then yes, because that's what's in your area. So I can't say for sure either way, but it seems right off the bat like yes, as long as there's decomposition happening and you can see it, it will work. Can you inoculate biochar with lab and fish hydrolysate to speed up charging? Absolutely. You can inoculate. Man, if you're making biochar, if you've got the char, then best thing to inoculate it with by far is the JDOM microbial solution and the fish fertilizer. You combine the two because the JDOM microbial solution has got the biggest, best diversity of microorganisms that we want. So if you harvest it right at the peak and then soak the biochar in the pure microbial solution, that is really the ticket. And then to give it the fish fertilizer for the food and the more diversity of microorganisms. And so yes, and then you will let that sit for a while and then introduce that into the soil, and that is going to be like a hotel for billions of microorganisms for a long time to come. So yes. Labs, not so much. I mean, you could, but it's labs, again, labs is inferior to the microbial solution for most things, especially in the garden, fertilizer-wise. For food-wise, us eating it and fermenting, we use the labs for everything, all kinds of stuff. But for the garden, we utilize the JMS because that's got way more diversity of microorganisms, way more power behind it, okay? And that's what we want. So, D-Backs, how could you not be interested in this channel? I know, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, we're not even in our first year of growth, guys. I mean, you are the originals that are here now, for the most part. And so we are not even in our first year. And we have I know it's really slowed down a lot now. The views and the subscribers, all that stuff, it's okay. Because it's not really gardening time in the Northern Hemisphere. But in the springtime, I foresee a lot of people joining us and a lot of new knowledge and a lot of all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, it actually grew pretty quick for being 1 year. That's what that's what I think. Now, spring 2023 with all your new knowledge makes it exciting. Yes, my friend, that is correct. Especially you got all these things you're going to try and stuff. And then when the spring finally gets here, yes. And we will have all kinds of videos in the early spring about seed starting and all the stuff. But here in a couple weeks, the microgreens videos will begin. And so even if you're not 100% into the microgreens, which I don't know why you wouldn't be, but still watch them and still set up the conditions, because the conditions for growing microgreens are the ideal conditions for seed starting for the most part. So I will show you guys multiple different ways to do that. And that way you've got your environment down, because it can take some time to, okay, you think you're just gonna set it up and have the ideal environment, but it just doesn't work that way all the time. So you have to make small adjustments. You have to maybe get a new one of these or get away with that or whatever. And so, yeah, you want it to be set up. T. Judd says, can I store my leaf mold in a bucket in the shed? Yes, you can. Tried to keep it with a breathable lid though, but so we want to keep it moist. the enemy of it all is to let it dry out, which it would still be okay if it got rehydrated, but you want to, yes, make it so that it's moist and that the microorganisms can survive. And you want it to be breathable. So yes. Let's see. Ehab says, "Hi man, I've been meaning to ask. I started my hemp seed JPF or FPJ a few months ago from crushed up hemp seed I used to make milk. Can I use this for flowering plants?" Let's see. Typically, well, yeah, probably. The FPJ is typically for about growth. So if they're far into their flowering cycle and you want them, whatever you're growing, you want it to produce good fruits or flowers of a dense nature, then you will not want to add the FPJ, because the FPJ is going to help for vigorous growth, not so much hardening. You want to add like the water-soluble calcium will help with hardening and density and ripening, you know. And if you really need to, some Epsom salts, is really good, because they like that sulfur, helps them to ripen plants. So, oops, I didn't know that about the leaf mold. Guess I should sprinkle it with water? Yes, probably, yeah. You'll sprinkle it with a little bit of water and just keep it with a breathable lid, or at least open the lid once a week or every other week or something. And yeah, that's how you'll keep it healthy. So that's important. Let's see. Becky Knight says, "Don't be scared. I made the hydrolysate and the yearly one. The hydrolysate isn't that bad. The yearly fertilizer does stink, but I just had to do it. I was given a bucket of dolphin carcasses." What? That's kind of crazy, isn't it? You mean dolphins? As in the mammal? That's pretty wild. So yes, go ahead and make them all. And just the smell, everyone's really concerned about the smell, but it's not really that big of a deal. To me, it just smells like life now. It smells like things that will be growing. So Penny Benson says, "Hello from springtime in New Zealand. I'm just getting into this way of gardening." Wonderful. Fantastic, my friend. So make sure you watch a lot of the videos already so you can get the appropriate philosophy. That's what it's all about. Because once you get the philosophy, the understanding of the approach and the methodology, then everything else becomes clearer. And so right off the bat, you get with the right state of mind. And that's what's ideal. And that's what's going to make everything so much quicker to assimilate and to learn the knowledge, is if you just right off the bat say, okay, so we're feeding the soil, not the plant. We have to completely let go of the knowledge or the way of thinking that we dissect the growth period of plants into N, P, and K. We dissect nutrients into N, P, and K. You give the N during the growth phase and the P and K during the later phase. That's the old way. Adjusting soil pH, that's the old way. So getting soil tests and stuff like that's all the old way. We don't need to do any of that. So we right off the bat, we think, okay, biggest diversity of microorganisms is what we are after. And we are going to utilize the life in the soil to do the hard work for us. We are going to cultivate conditions to where the life in the soil can thrive. And then when you have a good thriving soil food web with good conditions, whatever plant you put in there is going to thrive. And so it's the foundation. The soil is everything. And so that's where you start. Let's see. Penny says, "Thank you. I've taken over an established organic garden, so want to keep things pure and thriving from the soil up." Fantastic. So somebody has already been consciously tending the land there, and that is wonderful. So you can continue that and even probably improve on that by many ways. Because what we do is actually beyond organic. It's far beyond organic gardening. Because technically with organic gardening, you still are buying bottles of stuff. You're still buying bags of stuff. You can still test the pH and all that kind of way of thinking with certified organic gardening. And I'm just talking, I'm not saying you exactly, but with certified organic gardening. But this kind of gardening is natural farming, which is you make all your own inputs. We don't really buy anything from the store. We don't need to. I mean, we can, certain things, but the best stuff is made yourself out of things that are already available. And so it's just the knowledge that we need. "I've already started making weed tea, etc. I've got barrels everywhere. Haha. Yeah, Penny, we all can relate. We know exactly what you mean. Barrels all over the place. but it's awesome. You learn something new every day. Didn't know about mini dolphins. Oh, someone asked mini dolphins. Okay. Yeah, did you reply? Okay, Becky says there are two kinds of dolphins. This is the smaller one that fits in a bucket when curled up. What? That sounds weird. I can't even picture what that is like. I didn't know that there was miniature dolphins that could go into a bucket. You mean baby dolphins? Or okay, Ingrid says, Nate, a few years ago before YouTube, I was learning about gardening through books. Yeah, me too, my friend. I woke up one morning and said to myself, I'm going to learn to grow soil. And that is the key to healthy soil. That's absolutely right. You're growing the soil. You are a soil farmer beyond anything else. And so and if you take care of the soil, everything else is already taken care of. Because to have healthy, thriving soil, you already have to have good drainage, you have to have high organic matter, you have to have typically a living root in the ground most of the time, you have to have stuff that is hospitable to earthworms, you have to have all sorts of things. But when all of that is right and the soil is just, man, real nice and crumbly and the ground beef sort of texture with lots of aggregates in it, because of the glomalin, you remember the last video I just made where I explain all of that? That is really a nice thing, man. And you can just smell it, and it smells like life and nutrient-rich food. And then the food that you eat is a representation of the soil that it was grown in. The plant is an expression of the soil. And so if the soil is lacking and imbalanced and lacking in minerals, the food will also be likewise lacking in minerals and nutrients. And we consume this, and we are then likewise lacking in minerals and nutrients, because you are what you eat, and you are what you eat eats. And so you can literally, in good soil that has been tended properly and is full of life and minerals, the taste of the stuff is completely different. And that is a good indicator. Taste is a great indicator of nutrient density of the food. That's why so many of the things now you get from the store are just lacking in flavor, totally flavorless. Even a lot of the organic stuff, because organic just means that it's used without certain chemicals and pesticides. It doesn't necessarily mean more nutrient-dense food, and that's the catch. That's the big thing. It means not as many damaging chemicals, but in no way does it guarantee more nutrient-dense food. It often is, though. But with natural farming, you're guaranteed super nutrient-dense food. And it doesn't even matter, because we're not growing for yield. And that's unfortunately the disease that has infected the mind of the modern farmer is yield. Everything has to be about yield, because it's all about profit, because you turn growing food into a job, and then you have to make a profit. And then you're growing by weight. And so that's like the worst possible factor that you could grow by, that you could get paid upon from a holistic health standpoint and from a sustainability standpoint. Just yield, just weight. You know, how many bushels, how many tons, instead of how much nutrient density and how much more fertile is the land. How did you manage the land? How is it, what is the nutritional composition of it? Because it can be stuff that we can grow can be not nearly as big, not nearly as crazy pretty looking, to the untrained eye, and it can have defects and holes in it here and there, but it can be rich, flavored, and full of nutrients. And that is what it's all about. You will consume that, and the body is like, yes, we know what to do with this. And so you will be healthier for that. And so, yeah, it's wonderful to have organic soil, my friends. Matt says, I agree with the flavor factor. Grew best watermelon ever tasted using this natural method. Oh, man, yeah, something like watermelon. Oh, yeah, just like sugar, just and full of the good stuff, okay? Let's see. Okay, I assume the fish then has gills, not lungs. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I was still talking about that crazy sounding miniature dolphin. I have been doing the same, also picking off leaves that have already been eaten. Here, leaves that are partially eaten are like blood to sharks. What? I'm not sure what you're talking about. So beetle traps that use the bags are great too, but place them far away from your crops. Oh man, absolutely. I swear, the Japanese beetle traps around here are, as soon as I put one up, it's like it's swarming with Japanese beetles. And I know that it's pulling them from all around the place to my beetle trap. So I almost don't know if it's effective. But the good way is the milky spore. And I forgot to get it this week, but next week I'll read to you guys. Someone gave me a really good description on how to utilize the milky spore for the Japanese beetles. So we'll talk about that next week. Okay. Let's see here. And I think you get more yield considering naturally grown food is more satisfying. Oh, deeply satisfying. You get more, well, in the sense that you have to consume less, yeah, because there's so many more minerals in it. And the flavor, that's a direct relation indicator of the mineral content. And so you have to eat less and you can grow less, yes. But as far as the farmers, the way they're paid is by weight. And that's the worst possible way. Because that's saying, do whatever you have to the land. Who cares about the land? That doesn't matter. All that matters is the profit. And they're in a position where they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of debt to the ag companies. And there's no way they'll ever be out of it. They just have to grow as much as possible to keep the operation afloat, to keep from losing the farm. And so, yeah, they're going to do whatever they have to do to get weight. And so it's a really vicious cycle, and there's not an easy way out of it. But it starts right here with the understanding that we've been born into this system and that this system is not working. It's not going to work for much longer, okay? So, dolphin is a type of fish also known as mahi-mahi. Okay, that would make a lot more sense. Because I'm thinking of like flipper, like the dolphins we swim with in the ocean, the mammals that like echo, the ones that are like have superhuman intelligence and stuff. So, except just in a small version, but you're talking about mahi-mahi. Mitch Young says, taking down plants after frost. Okay to grind up all leaves and chicken manure, then plant cover crop. Zone 8. Oh, zone 8. Okay, taking down plants after the frost. Okay to grind up all leaves and chicken manure and then plant cover crop. Yes, you can do that. You would probably want crimson clover unless you have another one in mind. Crimson clover will do the best for your soil. So yes, even though it's a little bit late now, but I don't know about zone 8. So maybe a little bit of winter wheat or winter rye. But remember, you won't be able to terminate those until like May. So it will be, unless you tilled, which, it's tough. The crimson clover you could terminate though early, and it won't really grow back. But if you use a ryegrass or a wheat, man, that stuff, it doesn't matter how many times you mow it, it will continue to grow back until the right time. Then you can terminate it and it won't grow back, which I'll make videos about that in the spring. Okay, so let us, good. I'm glad we resolved this dolphin debacle. Yeah, me too, because it was getting weird. So I just searched milky spore. I have something to research. Thank you. Yes, RK. It's a type of like bacteria, I believe, that is only attacks the root, or only attacks the larva, the grubs of the Japanese beetle. And so that is going to really help us a lot, because we are going to put it into the ground at the right stage. And this is what the person told me, and I forgot to get it, but I'll read it to you next week. We put it into the ground and it infects the larva of the Japanese beetle and it kills them. And that's all it does. Apparently, that's all it does. It only attacks them. And so by watering at the right time, we will have the best chance of wiping out as many of the Japanese beetles as we can, and nothing else. So yeah, look into it, and we'll possibly utilize it. I'm thinking of a place I could utilize it and stuff. Here, it wouldn't matter so much because there's so many other places and people that are not utilizing it. So I don't really know. Someone just gave Mitch Young $50, man, baller. All right, thank you, my friend. Using the P you suggested, many thanks. Yes. Are you talking about the cowpea or the dung pea, or I forget which one I suggested to you? I think the cowpea, yeah. But man, thank you very much for the contribution, my friend. Very much appreciated. Yeah. In no way says, whoa, Mitch, nicely done. Reefer Madman, I swear by beneficial nematodes. Yes, for what? Let's see. Okay, I use Milky Spore in my compost because I thought they were Japanese beetles. Regretted later because they were horse flies and they made my scraps into compost faster than anything. Yes. Soldier fly larvae, definitely. Some people could mistake for that. Soldier fly larvae are very beneficial. I use beneficial nematodes for fleas. Flea beetles or fleas, like for the animals. Maybe too late in zone 8A, maybe freezing weather off and on to grow cover crop to live. The winter rye will still grow. Winter rye will still grow. And you only need it to be not even that big. You just need the roots to get down in there. And it'll do a huge thing of it. It'll do a lot more of the beneficial growth in the springtime when it starts growing again. But even, and I've done this, I've dug it up, even if the winter rye is only that tall, its root system goes way down. It's got like a foot deep of roots off when the thing's only a couple inches tall. And it's got thousands of little root hairs in it, and that's why we selectively use this plant for that process. Let's see, Dundale pea from True Leaf. Okay, yes, as the cover crop. Absolutely, that's going to be a really good one. And it's going to be easy to terminate, which is wonderful. This is, Mitch says, the type of pea. Yeah, it's going to be easy for you to terminate. And it's going to be pumping good nitrogen into the soil the whole time that it's alive. And if you let it go, you can eat them. It's a really good kind of pea, actually. So you can also eat the pea shoots. I don't know if you guys know this, but when the peas, if you're using peas like the Dundale as a cover crop, when they're growing, you can cut the shoots off, just like you're going to see us do for the microgreens, because we use Dundale peas for the microgreens as well. And we will let them grow, and then we cut the shoots. And the top 3 or 4 inches is really delicious, and they taste exactly like a sweet pea. And so we can make salads out of that, put that onto our stew or soup or whatever it is. So yeah, you can absolutely, that's another benefit. And it doesn't terminate it, so long as you don't cut it right at the base of. So if you're using the Dundale pea for a cover crop, you can eat the pea shoots, but just make sure that there's plenty of space left for it to keep growing. And yeah, that's really the best way, is to utilize things that have multiple uses like that. You can also take those Dundale peas and just sprout them in the mason jar. Sprout them till they just get the little tail on them, and eat them that way. You know, and they're way better, a lot more nutrients. That guy Chris, only thing I grow in winter is garlic, wheat, and barley. I really should make a high tunnel to have greens. Oh yeah, collard greens that grow even in the real cold. Let's see here. I have black fly larvae in my compost. They can eat a whole dragon fruit in less than 12 hours. Yes, dragon fruit. Where are you at again? You say South Florida? Okay, guys. So we're approaching towards the end, but if you guys got more burning questions, let me know what's going on. Mitch says, looking forward to the sprout videos. Yes, those will be coming before too long. The microgreens videos will be coming, and we'll be definitely doing that. Don't worry, there's plenty of time left in winter. There's still a number of months left where we're going to be doing all this. So it's a really good fix for like mid-December or after the holidays, you know, in January. Then it's like January, February, March of just, you know, that's when it's really good to have the indoor growing stuff. And we know then that our setup will be ideal for the seed starting, which is very important. Because remember, if you guys are wanting to grow sweet potatoes this year, you can grow them no matter the climate you live in, for the most part, unless you're like absurd in 2, maybe 3, I don't know how many days you have, but even in the cold climates, you can grow sweet potatoes. And I will show you exactly how to do it this spring and summer, but we're going to begin them very early. So quite early, they will be started, the sweet potatoes. And so, and then I'll show you a method to cure them this year that ended up being really good and beneficial and easy. So it's wonderful. Also, we'll be starting, one of the first things we'll be starting is onions. Those are the first thing that will really be growing under the lights. And that's, I mean, as far as seed starting, because we want those to be nice and stout. So we'll be growing the onions, but we'll be keeping them trimmed to about 5 inches. And that's going to allow them to thicken up so that when we plant them, we ideally want them to be at least like a pencil, that kind of thickness, because we're going to plant them out very early. Okay. Let's see. Taida says, unrelated to food, but does this chat remain available later to read? Yes, it does. Absolutely. But only once the whole thing thoroughly loads and processes. So it's actually about 12 hours. So like we'll finish now, and then before the chat is available, like everything you guys are saying, that's going to be like tomorrow at some time, or like it's about 12 to 24 hours before the whole thing is processed. And then, yes, it will all the chat should be available. But until then, it's like, no, it's not. Becky Knight says, we need a Facebook group. That's probably a good idea. Jason, Nate has a good video on just that from a few days ago. Leaves and free material. Oh, yeah, what's Jason saying? Julian says, long day onion. Well, that depends on where you're at. So in the South, they do short day onions. In the North, we do long day onions. There's a lot of confusion about that, but the long day onion actually means that, what it really means is this. The long day onion grows all of its vegetative leafy growth in the long days, as the days are getting longer, in the long days of summer. Then, once the plant senses that the days are getting shorter, it will then stop its vegetative growth and begin bulbing. That's the long day onions. But the short day onions, actually, which you use like in the South and stuff, you would plant them like now. And so they will do all of their vegetative growth in the short days of the winter time. And so once they sense that the days are getting longer, they will begin to bulb. You see, there's a massive major difference. But if you try to research it, it's actually very confusing. So yeah, that's what the difference is. But I need to see long day to bulb. Yeah, it's could be. Let's see here. It's the reverse. It is the reverse of what? And I'm quite sure that that's the case. You use the short day in the South for that exact reason, and the long day in the North. And the dividing line is really about like Tennessee. Well, actually like Southern Tennessee. So let us see. Onions are my weak spot in gardening. Need to find a suited variety for my zone 6A. Where are you at? What is your latitude? Tropic of Cancer is the line. Where is the Tropic of Cancer? Long day of my week. So yes, and I would join. I'm not in there except to work, but I would absolutely utilize this kind of group. Yeah, that could be cool, but it's I still haven't utilized enough of the Facebook group and stuff like that, but I will be doing that. It just can only do so much. Okay, guys, so let's see. If you have any more, I wouldn't want the YouTube group to change, but a Facebook group for those who do use the site would be really neat. Yeah, it would be, because then we could post more pictures and stuff like that, wouldn't it? We can post pictures of the stuff. Yeah, and this springtime, I want you guys to send me some video or some pictures and stuff. At any point, you can send me pictures of your garden or something like that, which would be cool. gardenlikeaviking@gmail.com. And but for any kind of questions, then go ahead and put them in the comments of the videos, because we like everybody to be able to see the knowledge. All right. So let's see here. Hello from Cali. Hello, Victory Garden. Is it because of the monitoring they say happens there? Oh, you guys are talking. Okay, guys. So if there's any other burning questions, yeah, see my bee pollen. I'm about to take some of this as well. Another fantastic thing. I meant to mention it when I was doing the raw honey. Take bee pollen all the time. It's really, I feel literally like a stimulation from it. It's pretty wild. So, and yes, a number of you guys have asked it about beard care, actually, because of the last video or something has said, I got a number of comments about the beard and what is the beard care. And I assume it's guys that is asking the question, but essentially it is really just well, the only thing that I use on the beard is 1 drop of cedarwood oil with a couple drops of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Rub it like this and just rub it into the beard. And I only do that after I wash it with Dr. Bronner's Castile oil soap. And that's only like every 3rd day that I would wash it, unless I did something, dirty. And that's pretty much it. But the main thing is beard health for a man is all about from the inside out. It's so I eat lots of oils. I eat lots of, not any seed oils, but things like tallow, really good, the animal oils, or saturated, the coconut oil, olive oil, ghee, raw butter. I use all those kind of things. I also consume raw cream, raw milk, raw beef liver, also a plethora of a different kind of leafy greens. I have juices of greens. I juice wheatgrass. I have sprouts. I have microgreens. I eat mushrooms all the time. So all of this stuff contributes. And for a man, the beard health is from the inside out primarily. So you can't be eating a bunch of garbage and be deficient in minerals and stuff and expect to have the virility of like a bursting beard. So that's for the persons that asked on that. Okay. All right, guys. Well, it's been real. It's like hanging out with good friends, like always. And I really appreciate you guys. So thanks. It'll be the same time next week. We'll be doing this. And keep up the great videos. May your thumbs be green. That's a good one. May your thumbs be green, my friends. You should do a shout out to other small YouTube gardening channels you like and help them get noticed. YouTube is a zero-sum platform. What is a zero-sum platform? Yeah, that's sort of what I've been trying to do. There's not too many other that but I mean, to give a shout out though to a YouTube channel, I need to first believe in the YouTube channel. I need to first check it out myself, because not just anybody that comes across would I promote, because that's a reflection on me. So the ones that I do promote, then I've already checked them out and I already believe in their message and I already understand that you guys, my viewers, could gain something from also viewing them. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't just anyone, but someone that I believe in, definitely. I'm all about it. Okay, guys, we will see you next time.